Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem was robbed at a restaurant in D.C. while under Secret Service protection. I know, it's crazy. We're going to talk about that and a whole bunch more. You're listening to the Brian Craig Show podcast. My name is Brian Craig. And the program is brought to you by Tom Laporta at Laporta Contracting and Roofing. If you're in the state of Florida and you need roof replacement or repair, Tom Laporta, he's your guy. He'll never sell you a roof you do not need. He handles both residential and commercial and works with every type of roofing material. Online at LaportaRoofing.com. Okay, so let's get into this. Now, Kristi Noem is she's cabinet secretary, right? She's the Homeland Security Secretary and a senior one. And not only does she have a Secret Service detail, she has a pretty big one because with the deportations that's going on, in particular rounding up the Trinidad de Agua and MS-13. Remember, they arrested that big leader a couple weeks ago. And the mass deportations, the security threat around the Homeland Security Secretary is elevated to a very high level. So she's got a pretty serious Secret Service detail, and she was robbed. And I say robbed with quotation marks around robbed, okay? Because something stinks about this. This is the latest. This story, by the way, dropped at about 12:45 today. And this robbery happened Easter in a restaurant. This is the latest update from the Associated Press, okay? And this is a developing story. And throughout the podcast, I'll continue to check and see if there's other updates. But when you're listening to this program, there may be more updates, okay? Because this is a developing story, but something's going on here. Okay, this is the Associated Press. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem's purse was stolen at a Washington, D.C. restaurant Sunday night, Easter night. That's according to the Department of Homeland Security speaking to the AP. The department in an email said Kristi Noem had money in her purse to buy gifts for her children and grandchildren and to pay for Easter dinner and other things. Homeland Security in an email didn't specify what was stolen, but CNN, which was first to report the story, said the thief took about $3,000 in cash, as well as Kristi Noem's keys, her driver's license, her passport, checks, personal checks, her makeup bag, medication, her Homeland Security bag, and by the way, those keys are the keys to her apartment that she lives in D.C. That's not in this story, but I saw it reported somewhere else just a bit ago. Homeland Security said Kristi Noem had cash in her purse to pay for gifts, dinner, and other activities for her family on Easter. The Homeland Security Secretary is protected by U.S. Secret Service agents. The Secret Service referred questions on the incident to Homeland Security. Okay, that's the latest from the AP. All right, this is CNN. CNN reporting Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem fell victim to a thief while eating dinner at a downtown D.C. restaurant Sunday night. Secretary Kristi Noem confirmed this at the White House Easter egg roll today. The matter has not yet been resolved, so they haven't caught the thief. They say it was someone wearing a surgical mask, okay, and they were white. And everything else they have in here is what we got in the AP story, so nothing new there. Okay, so there's not a lot of detail. We don't know, where was her purse? Was it with like a coat check girl? Was it sitting on a chair at the table? Did she go to the ladies' room and leave it on the floor in the stall or by the sink? Was it under the table of the restaurant and she left for the ladies' room and someone came by and took the purse? This is what I find so impossible to believe. And you guys can let me know what you think in the comments. I find it impossible to believe that a senior level cabinet secretary with an unusually large Secret Service detail because of her position and what's going on with the deportations, as I said in the beginning, just had her purse snatched by some white guy in a surgical mask in a restaurant in D.C. This to me seems like an op. I'm sorry. I mean, I know I sound paranoid maybe, but it sounds like an op, doesn't it? You know, the Secret Service has shown a lot of incompetence. Their incompetence led to President Trump being shot in Butler. And then a couple weeks later, there was the second assassination attempt under their protection at the golf course here in Florida. And there's been, since Trump has been president again in his second term, I saw in the local news over the weekend here in Palm Beach, there's been over 25 violations of restricted airspace in and around Mar-a-Lago. And I've talked a little bit about that, where we had the fighter jets flying over the house multiple times with the president here in town. So there's crazy things going on, and this story stinks. There's more to this story. Can the Secret Service be that incompetent, or do you think this was an op? Was it a way? Kristi Noem is one of their big enemies, right? They don't like Pete Hegseth. They don't like Pam Bondi and Kash Patel. They don't like any of them, really, and they really don't like Kristi Noem, and they don't like Tom Homan. Was this a deep state op? Was this a Tren de Agua MS-13 operation? Was this a Democrat operation, or was it just some random guy who went into a restaurant and just happened to steal a purse belonging to a cabinet secretary with a large, secure Secret Service detail and was able to walk out with the purse like nothing happened? I find the last one impossible to believe. I really do. There's something going on here. This country, sadly, we saw this with Richard Nixon and what President Trump's been going through for the last decade. And with what happened with President Kennedy, we have an establishment in this country, a political establishment that, Tucker Carlson refers to them as the permanent Washington class. And these people just cannot be trusted. President Kennedy, Bobby Kennedy, right? Martin Luther King, Butler, the Florida golf course, other things. What's happening here is beyond the realm of possibility to just be a random event. And I find it very strange that we have no information on where the purse was in this restaurant. I gave a couple possible scenarios, but and why was she wasn't in a restaurant alone. She was having dinner with someone or some people or her family, plus the Secret Service. How does a robber go into a DC restaurant with a Secret Service detail protecting it, I'm assuming in and outside, and they did sweeps, and get her purse and walk out? The idea that this could be some random robbery is beyond the realm of believability. Is it intimidation? Was it, and if it's intimidation, who was doing it? Democrats? A Democrat activist? These lunatics that have been, attacking Tesla dealerships? These Venezuelan gangs looking to try to scare her because she did that big arrest? The MS-13 Tren de Agua gang members are not sane people. They don't even think they're criminals. They think this is just how life and the world operate, okay? And they view Kristi Noem as an enemy of theirs. And when you're dealing with criminally insane people like that, anything goes in their mind. This is one of the most disturbing stories I have heard in a long time. Since the assassination attempts on Trump, Butler, then the golf course. I remember when everybody remembers where they were when President Trump was shot in Butler, and I remember I called Steve Kane. I said they shot Trump, and then we were, and then we had that terrible day, and then when it happened again, I called Steve. I said, Steve, did you see the news? He says, no. I said they tried to shoot Trump again. He's like, what? He was like in I was like, yeah, they at the golf course here in Florida, and now this. Something's in play. Now, I do want to hear your thoughts on this, and I will check throughout the podcast for any new developments on this story. I want to talk about Ann Coulter. Ann Coulter has been a passionate never Trumper, and now she's out there praising President Trump. This is Ann Coulter on C-SPAN, and she lives in Palm Beach, by the way, not far from Mar-a-Lago. This is Ann Coulter on C-SPAN from Palm Beach today, talking about President Trump's first 100 days.
Ms. Coulter, last time you were on this program, was a couple months before the 2024 election. As we sit here today, close to 100 days into the second Trump administration, what do you think these first 100 days will be remembered for?
The most wonderful 100 days in United States history. I can't believe how great Trump is. If you've followed my work assiduously, you know.
Okay, now she has been one of the nastier critics of President Trump, and this is all over X. I'm glad people are doing this. She said that she called Trump a gigantic baby. She called him this is the word, a retard. And she said a lot of other terrible things about him.
I campaigned with Trump when he was running in 2016.
Yeah.
He did ask for a copy of my book, Adios America. A lot of the immigration stuff came from that.
Oh.
Huge fan.
The immigration policy is now hers. She was a big Ted Cruz. She was a never Trumper, and she was a big Ted Cruz supporter. She thought Ted Cruz was the guy.
Ecstatic the night he won. And then he hired Jared Kushner and Gary Cohn and turned the keys of the kingdom over to Wall Street. And it was basically, Jeb Bush. So I gently encouraged him to go back to the great stuff he had campaigned on. I showed up in the Oval Office. I didn't release this, but it came out. I think the yelling and cursing was so loud in the Oval Office about 3 months into his first term, and just yelled at him. And I wasn't the first one to use the F word, but oh boy, did that fly, because he wasn't keeping his promises on trade, on anchor babies, and especially the wall. I say that to say I think we're actually kind of lucky that he lost in 2020 and that the left spent 4 years absolutely persecuting him, prosecuting. I mean, the absurd things they went after him and his supporters for. And apparently that made him mad. So term 2, I'm getting everything I voted for. I mean, even more. I can't believe it. Every day, it's things I didn't even think of. Yes, the water pressure in the showers, the toilets, the going after the universities, the anchor baby executive order, which I understand as of yesterday will be going before the Supreme Court.
Okay. Now, I will tell you this about Ann Coulter. But here's the thing with Ann Coulter. With everything she said and done, should she not have a lifetime expulsion from the MAGA movement? Now, again, I understand, there have been people that have been never Trumpers that Trump has brought into the fold, right? J.D. Vance had said some things. Trump made him vice president. Mark Levin in the first campaign was a never Trumper, and Trump just appointed him to an advisory position with Homeland Security, right? So, if Trump brings somebody in the mix who was a never Trumper, then it's like their sins are forgiven, right? I mean, that's just kind of the way we've got to handle these things. And that's the rule of thumb that I go by with Trump. But Ann Coulter, this is what I see going on with a lot of these people, okay? They know Trump only has this last term. I know Bannon's talking about a third term. And unless there's a constitutional amendment, that's not going to happen. Let's be honest, okay? The never Trumper wing of the Republican Party during these next 3 years are going to be working to get back in positions of trust so that when Trump's final term is up at the end of this term, they can plug somebody in. That's one of the reasons they're going after Pete Hegseth so hard. They want to get Nikki Haley or DeSantis or another establishment person they trust into a key position to set them up to run for president. They want to have power back. And the Republican establishment, the Bush wing of the Republican Party, what I'm looking at with Ann Coulter is a move by them to get back in power. Let me know what you think in the comments. Now, I want to tell you guys that Mike Lindell at MyPillow.com has some incredible specials that are going on. I've been talking a lot about his new energy drink. He has an energy drink. It's brand new. You can get the introductory 3-pack free with our promo code Kane at checkout at MyPillow.com. I have these energy drinks. It comes in 3 flavors. So the introductory 3-pack is the 3 flavors. There's green apple, lemonade, and a blueberry. And this is a limited time offer just to give you a chance to try out the energy drink. Again, you get a free 3-pack at MyPillow.com. But There are other specials there as well. And you can take advantage of all the specials with our promo code Kane at checkout, including the incredible deal going on the Percale bed sheets. I have these on my guest bed. They're only $25 no matter what size or color you get. When I say $25 for any size, whether it's a twin, a single, a queen, a king, a California king, a split king, no matter what size the mattress, $25 with our promo code Kane. It's an incredible deal, and they have 11 colors in stock. But once they're gone, they're gone. This is a closeout sale on the Percale sheets, and they are great. I have them. There's many other specials there. And remember, when you use my promo code Kane at checkout, Kane at mypillow.com, you're supporting all my content, the radio show, the podcast here, my YouTube channel, everything I do. And it's greatly appreciated. Promo code Kane, Kane at checkout at mypillow.com. My name is Brian Craig. This is where MAGA comes to talk. We'll be right back. How would you like to unlock the full potential of mindfulness? You can learn how to do just that and more in the new book from author Jose O. Gallardo, Mastering Mindfulness Beyond Basics, available on Amazon. In this must-read and life-changing book, you'll discover advanced techniques to cultivate lasting presence, learn to build emotional resilience, and ignite your personal growth. Mastering Mindfulness Beyond Basics is your roadmap to transformation. You'll discover how to integrate mindfulness seamlessly into your daily routine, boost your productivity, and strengthen your emotional health, even if you're struggling to find the time or the motivation. There's also step-by-step guidance to enhance your productivity through mindfulness practices, improve your emotional well-being and relationships, reduce stress in real time with simple daily routines. Start your journey toward a more balanced, focused life and order your copy of Mastering Mindfulness Beyond Basics on Amazon in Kindle, paperback, hardcover, and Kindle Unlimited. It's time to unlock the power of mindfulness to transform your life.
My name is Dr. Philip Appleton. I'm a chiropractic physician. Over the years, I've treated thousands and thousands of patients from bursitis, tendonitis, sciatica, stenosis, neuropathy, tears, post-surgery, pre-surgery, herniated disc, gout, bone on bone. If you can name the pain, most likely I've treated over the years. Most of my practice is laser with robotic lasers. They're robots which rotates constantly around the area, where most lasers do not do that. So if you want to come in for a free consultation, as always here, welcome at Appleton Chiropractic. I'm here 6 days a week. I personally do all the treatment. You can bring your MRIs, you can bring your x-rays, you can bring your CAT scans, whatever you have to bring for me to look at, I would do that free of charge.
Call Dr. Appleton right now for that free consultation. 954-973-0710. 954-973-0710. And online, AppletonChiro.com. Are you ready to transform pain into purpose? From author Sammy Dunaway comes your guide to healing what hurts most in the book, Bridge to Redemption, The Power of Forgiveness, available on Amazon. This must-read book combines real-life stories with practical tools like journaling, mindfulness, and empathy building to help you release anger, regret, and bitterness. When you read Bridge to Redemption through the lens of divine grace, you'll learn to forgive others and yourself, mend broken relationships, and find the peace you've been longing for. Whether you're carrying deep wounds or seeking a fresh start, this book is your roadmap to a lighter, freer life. It also makes a great addition to your book club. Discover how forgiveness isn't just a gift for others. It's a lifeline for you, a bridge from pain to peace, from regret to redemption. Bridge to Redemption, The Power of Forgiveness is available now on Amazon. Your journey to healing starts right now. You followed all the rules. You did everything right, too. And you have success. You made it. So why does something still feel like it's missing? That quiet whisper of what now? It's not just a thought. It's a signal. It's a wake-up call. From global strategist and author Sharif Labib comes the must-read and life-changing book, Paradigms Unlocked, A Journey to Clarity, Purpose, and Fulfillment. Available on Amazon. Paradigms Unlocked is a blueprint for your transformation. With this book, you'll discover the hidden beliefs shaping your life
life and learn how to break through the barriers, rewire your mindset, and create a future filled with clarity and purpose. The author has spent over 25 years guiding Fortune 500 companies and high achievers, uncovering the hidden forces that dictate success and fulfillment, helping leaders, organizations, and individuals just like you break through mental barriers, redefine success, and take control of their future. And he's sharing his knowledge with you in Paradigms Unlocked. You know there's more for you, more success, more meaning, more fulfillment, but nothing changes unless you do. Break free, take control, and unlock your true potential with Paradigms Unlocked, a journey to clarity, purpose, and fulfillment from author Sharif Labib. Available on Amazon in Kindle, paperback, hardcover, and Kindle Unlimited. Take control of your future right now with Paradigms Unlocked on Amazon.
You are listening to The Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at BrianCraigShow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome back, everyone. The Kristi Noem story is starting to pick up now. The lead story is in the Daily Mail about this now. And I just saw this. This just popped up during the break. I have not read this story. I don't know if we have new information or not, but we're going to go through. This story with Kristi Noem just blows my mind. I'm just totally freaked out by it, that because of her Secret Service detail. Headline story, they have some strange pictures of her, including one with the purse, and it is a big purse. I mean, it's a massive size purse that got lifted. Here is the headline: Kristi Noem's bizarre reason for carrying $3,000 in cash and a stash of blank checks leaves everyone baffled. Blank checks. I mean, the checkbooks, I guess they're blank, but they're you're not signing blank checks, which is a whole different thing. This is very strange because this article seems to be blaming Kristi Noem for being robbed. Let me go through the story. Department of Homeland, there may not be anything new. Let's find out. Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem was carrying $3,000 in cash when her purse was stolen because she was planning to hand out the money to family as Easter gifts. Well, she is wealthy. Remember, she had that $50,000 watch when she went to El Salvador. And that is a very realistic thing there to hand out the $3,000 for someone in her position. The so-called Ice Barbie, I got to get that in again, was robbed while she was dining a Capitol Burger in D.C. despite being accompanied by her Secret Service detail. A law enforcement source disclosed to CNN there were plenty of valuables in the bag that was stolen Sunday. The man was able to take off with Noem's driver's license, medication, house keys, passport, DHS badge, makeup bag, blank checks, and roughly $3,000. Her entire family was in town, including her children and grandchildren. She was using the withdrawal to treat her family to dinner, activities, and Easter gifts, the spokesman said, of the wedge of cash, Fox News reports. After reviewing the restaurant security footage, the Secret Service determined that Noem's bag was snatched by a white man in a medical mask before he exited the restaurant. Noem, speaking to press at the White House Easter egg roll, confirmed the incident and said that it is unresolved. Homeland Security spokesperson confirmed the incident in an email to the Daily Mail. And the spokesperson from Homeland Security said this: the robbery occurred while Noem was out celebrating Easter dinner with her family. It's unclear at the time what restaurant she was dining at. The manager of Capitol Burger told the Daily Mail that he hadn't heard of the incident that allegedly happened less than 24 hours ago at his restaurant and referred all inquiries to his media relations team. Restaurant with a media relation? Well, it's D.C. The Secret Service has launched a probe. Well, there needs to be a probe into the Secret Service. Sunday's robbery is hugely embarrassing for Noem, who has courted controversy with her tough-on-crime stance as Homeland Security boss. I don't think it's embarrassing to her. This is a national security breach. Then they talk about her wearing tactical gear to make fun of her, and that's it. No, they have nothing new. They're just blaming her and making fun of her. This is really bad, guys. This is beyond bad. I got to tell you, it used to be the Secret Service were viewed as this elite group of people that were like U.S. Army Special Forces, Navy SEALs, even more elite than that. And obviously there have been some incidents, Hinckley with Reagan and JFK and things like this. But overall, they've been viewed as a respectable agency of the top security people ever seen in the world. And we have these multiple attempts on President Trump. Now we have this. Now, this is, how can this not be disturbing to you, right? It's very disturbing. Now, President Trump, he did something quite funny today at the Easter egg roll. He went up to the Easter bunny and shared a little story. Listen.
Do you remember the bunny with Joe Biden? Remember? Do you remember when the bunny took Joe Biden out? He's not taking Trump out. Anyway, that was a beautiful moment when the bunny saved Joe Biden.
Yeah, remember that when the bunny was giving orders to the president of the United States? And it's a funny thing, the Trump White House bunnies kind of like laughing and making funny motions with their hands about the story. And Melania is standing next to the president, and she's laughing about it too. Yeah, it's pretty crazy where the bunny is giving orders to the president of the United States. So their other main target right now is Pete Hegseth. They want Pete Hegseth out. They want Pete Hegseth out, as I was saying in the first segment, because they want to plug in someone like Nikki Haley. They want to plug in an establishment person for the Republican establishment to have someone in place to run for president in the next election, or maybe as vice president with JD. But they want to get these Republican establishment, Bush Republicans like Nikki Haley and Ann Coulter back in the mix. And at the end of last week, Pete Hegseth fired a whole bunch of leakers at the Pentagon. And some of them were close to him that had been with him for quite some time that he brought to the Pentagon. And then all of a sudden, we wake up today and there's all these stories that he's giving classified battle information to his wife and other people and other signal chat. And at the Easter egg roll, he was asked about this by a reporter.
What do you want to say, sir, about the signal chat controversy?
What a big surprise that a few leakers get fired and suddenly a bunch of hit pieces come out from the same media that peddled the Russia hoax. Won't give back their Pulitzers. They got Pulitzers for a bunch of lies. Pulitzers for a bunch of lies. And on hoaxes, time and time and time again. And as they peddle those lies, no one ever calls them on it.
Yep.
See, this is what the media does. They take anonymous sources from disgruntled former employees, and then they try to slash and burn people and ruin their reputations. Not going to work with me, because we're changing the Defense Department, putting the Pentagon back in the hands of warfighters, and anonymous smears from disgruntled former employees on old news doesn't matter. So I'm happy to be here at the Easter egg roll with my dad and my kids, because this is what we're doing it for. These kids right here. This is why we're fighting the fake news media.
Okay, yeah, and he's exactly right about this. The stories that he was giving people classified battle plans is complete nonsense, and I'm glad he called them out on that. That right after he fired the leakers, boom, this story comes out, and he is going to be their number one target for a number of reasons. One, like I say, they want to get a establishment Republican into the Pentagon, but also he's doing a lot of things. He changed all those bases back to the original names, and he found a way to do it in a way that they can't contest, like, brag and all that stuff. That has them freaked out. He is working with Elon Musk and Doge on government waste through Pentagon spending, the very powerful, influential, maybe even the secret government of the military-industrial complex. They don't like that. They want somebody plugged in that'll let the corruption continue, and it goes on. So, this is just a part of being MAGA, working for the president, and being a senior person around the president. You get your purse stolen. They spread information. I wonder that with the Kristi Noem stolen purse, is there, were they trying to get her cell phone? I mean, think about that. You get the cell phone of someone, you've got a lot of information. Were they looking for her cell phone to try to find some type of scandal on her? Was this robbery of Kristi Noem, was it a phishing expedition to get her phone and get into her private text and emails? Right? They've been trying for a long time to create some type of sex scandal with her, with Corey Lewandowski. So there's these Trump derangement syndrome sufferers, they believe their own garbage. Okay. Remember, they broke into Mar-a-Lago with a safecracker to break into President Trump's safe because they had convinced themselves that President Trump had a binder in his safe at Mar-a-Lago. Remember this at the time? That were the documents that showed Obama ordered Trump Tower to be spied upon. And that's that whole break-in at Mar-a-Lago had nothing to do with classified documents. It was about getting this binder, which, by the way, wasn't there, but they convinced themselves was there. So the Kristi Noem robbery, now that I'm starting to think about this, my first guess would be that it was a phishing expedition to get her cell phone with the idea that there's some incriminating text or emails on her cell phone that they could use against her. That would be my first guess right there, now that I'm starting to think about it. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Also, there's been another removal from duty from a senior officer in the Army. I talked about this incident. Now we got the update. There's a lady colonel who was the commander of a base called Fort McCoy, which I believe is in Wisconsin. And she refused to put the photographs of President Trump, Vice President J.D. Vance, and Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth on the wall at the base. And there's been an update. Yeah, that's right. And there's photographs of this. Fort McCoy Garrison Commander Colonel Sheila Baez Ramirez has been suspended from her position after reportedly refusing to display official photographs of Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, and Pete Hegseth. The announcement was made in a brief and carefully worded statement by Fort McCoy's senior commander on Saturday, claiming the suspension was not related to any misconduct and that no further details will be provided at the time. The statement reads this, quote, Colonel Sheila Baez Ramirez has been suspended as garrison commander at Fort McCoy. The suspension is not related to any misconduct. We have no further details to provide at this time while this matter is under review. I don't think it's a coincidence that this story broke last week, that she wouldn't put President Trump, the vice president, and Pete Hegseth's picture on the wall where they're required. There's spaces for them that are empty. According to multiple reports, Colonel Ramirez, who assumed command in July, has openly engaged in left-wing political activism, repeatedly defied Department of Defense regulations requiring the prominent display of official portrait of current civilian leadership, including the president, vice president, and defense secretary. And there's photographs of her where she's really bragging about it. Last week, DOD Rapid Response wrote on X regarding the Fort McCoy chain of command wall controversy. We fixed it. Also, an investigation has begun to figure out exactly what happened. So they because this went public last week, they did put the photographs up. Pete Hegseth reposted Ramirez's suspension report on X. Okay, so yeah, it's obviously related to it. And this is one of the reasons they're after Pete Hegseth. It's not the main reason. I mean, they don't like him, but he's standing up to them. And he's standing up against their wokeness, their military-industrial complex, their corruption, and he's working with President Trump to end the endless wars. So all the things he's doing are things they just don't support, that they want stopped, and he's doing a great job. And he's probably the best Secretary of Defense of my lifetime. And I don't think that's even up for debate. I mean, he's doing an incredible job, isn't he? Pete Hegseth, he's awesome. Now, I want to take a moment to thank our Patreon supporters. And if you'd like to become a Patreon supporter, it's a great way for you to support all of my content. There's a link to our Patreon page in the description of the episode. And if you're a Patreon supporter, you have access to commercial-free editions of all of my podcast episodes. And our top Patreon supporters get a live on-air thank you shout-out on each and every episode of the program. So the names you'll hear now are our top Patreon supporters. I want to thank Andrew and Connie, Christine, ETW, Chuck, Pamela, Nick, Wesley, Heather, David, Maria in Texas, Alice, LeeZep, Shawna, George, Brandon, Rob and Trish Wilkerson, John S., Frank, Dale, David, Laura B., Rob, and SF Jr. These are our top Patreon supporters. Thank you so much for your support. Again, if you'd like to become a Patreon supporter, there is a link in the description of this and every episode of the program. My name's Brian Craig. This is where MAGA comes to talk. We'll be right back.
If you're a homeowner or with a homeowners association and your roof is old or compromised, you need to call Tom Laporta at Laporta Roofing. Laporta Roofing has been in the roofing and construction business since 1984, with thousands of roof installations and thousands of satisfied customers. Did you know that in the state of Florida, you can open a roofing company and borrow someone else's license? Tom Laporta is the holder of his roofing and general contractor's licenses, not like the other companies that borrow other people's licenses. So be sure who you're dealing with. Tom Laporta and his team are honest, knowledgeable, and reliable, and he'll never sell you a roof you don't need. Laporta Roofing carries all insurance, including workers' compensation on all of its employees, not just a waiver like other contractors. Laporta Roofing can handle any type of roofing job, too. Residential roofing, HOAs, condominiums, and churches. If it's roofing, Laporta Roofing can do it. So call Tom Laporta on his cell phone, 954-604-4602, or connect online at laportaroofing.com. That number again is 954-604-4602. Laporta Roofing, the go-to roofing company you can trust. Are you confused by food labels? Wondering if organic is really better? Find the answers to those questions and more in the new book from author Evgeny Trufkin, The Anti-Factory Farm Shopping Guide, available on Amazon. Filled with fun illustrations as well as easy-to-follow insights, The Anti-Factory Farm Shopping Guide breaks down factory farm versus organic food, shares the truth about pesticides and what labels really mean. Plus, there's free video lessons that help you take action fast. You'll learn much more, too, like the differences between caged, cage-free, free-range, and pasture-raised meats and eggs. Learn to easily identify genetically modified foods, the myth about safe pesticides, why seeing vegetarian feed on a label is actually a bad thing, even if it's organic, and much, much more. Start eating healthier, shopping smarter, and avoid food industry tricks, and order your copy of The Anti-Factory Farm Shopping Guide from author Evgeny Trufkin on Amazon in Kindle and paperback. What if everything you thought you knew about plastics was wrong? From author and world-leading plastic materials scientist, Dr. Kristi Noem, comes the must-read book, Shattering the Plastics Illusion. It's a groundbreaking sequel to his previous book, The Plastics Paradox. Shattering the Plastics Illusion takes you on a fearless, evidence-based exploration into one of today's most controversial topics. 5 years, over 5,000 scientific studies, and zero funding or outside influence, the author has become the world's leading independent expert on the true impact of plastics on our environment, from ocean litter myths and microplastics to recycling realities and life cycle analysis. This book reveals what the peer-reviewed science really says. If you want facts instead of fear, truth instead of headlines, this is the book for you. Shattering the Plastics Illusion is trusted by scientists, educators, as well as policymakers around the world. And now it's your turn to see the evidence and help shape a smarter, more sustainable future. Order your copy right now online at phantomplastics.com. That's phantomplastics.com. Be informed, not misled. Order your copy today. Couples, listen up. How would you like to experience a deeper, more fulfilling connection with your spouse? From author Greg Stewart, PhD, comes the book, I Cubed for Couples, Facing Our Negative Emotions to Build Intimacy in Marriage. This groundbreaking book will help you unlock the power of emotional intelligence to transform your relationship. You'll learn to understand and manage emotions together, communicate effectively to resolve conflicts with ease, build emotional safety, trust, as well as intimacy, cultivate a thriving, passionate relationship that stands the test of time. Whether you're newlyweds or have shared a lifetime together, iCube for Couples provides a roadmap to the marriage you've always dreamed of. Available now on Amazon in paperback and Kindle, as well as drgregstewart.com. iCube for Couples, Facing Our Negative Emotions to Build Intimacy in Marriage, from author Greg Stewart, PhD. Order your copy right now, because the strongest marriages are built on emotional intelligence.
You are listening to the Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at briancraigshow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian Craig. It is nuts. I'm looking on X during the break, and at what the Kristi Noem robbery right now is the 10th trend on X. And I'm reading what people are saying. Like somebody here wrote, this is just a person, it's not the media. Kristi Noem portrays herself as tough all the time, posing with guns and in the El Salvador prison. I think she should time down her fake rhetoric. Kristi Noem is skanky. That's another one. Kristi Noem had her purse stolen. Let's talk about what really matters to MAGA. Now here's somebody finally. Where was the Secret Service when Kristi Noem got robbed? You mean to tell me a high-profile figure like that gets hit and nobody steps in? What the heck is going on? This isn't just a robbery. It's a failure of security at the highest level. Somebody better answer for it. I'm still going to stick with my theory that this is some type of op to get a hold of her cell phone. In fact, there was a story, come to think of it, there was the Corey Lewandowski thing that they've tried to make a scandal of. I've not heard about that in quite some time. And then a couple of days ago, I saw a story that talked about her, trying to get him some special advisory job, and then the administration stopped it. So there was some Lewandowski story. So the more I think about it, the more I'm going to stick with my theory that this was an attempt to get the phone. Remember, they went after Mike Lindell's phone. Remember that? From MyPillow at the fast food restaurant. He was raided by the FBI. He was in at the drive-thru at a fast food. They surrounded, took his phone. I don't know if he's gotten it back from Kash Patel or not, but they did everybody's life is in their phone. So when they imagine scandal, they think about, oh, well, there's got to be some text with her. Then if we get with her and Corey Lewandowski, these leak out. Now, I don't know. Maybe there are embarrassing text and emails between her and her boyfriend. I don't know. I wouldn't care. I don't think it has anything to do with what she's doing. She's doing a great job as the Homeland Security Secretary. And this robbery has nothing to do with her. It has to do with her Secret Service detail. They're the ones to blame. I mean, if they can let something like this happen through their incompetence, if it was incompetence, or was this something that was allowed? The Secret Service agent at the golf course for the second assassination attempt on President Trump fired 5 shots at the shooter and missed 5 times. How does a top guy, a Secret Service agent on the presidential detail, miss that? Well, I guess he wasn't the president yet. It was during the campaign still. It was before the election, but it was getting close. He was the nominee. How do they miss that? Exactly. I mean, I don't even think that's possible. There's all kind, and of course Butler, the guy was on the roof, and it was, even though it was the second story, it was a very low building. There's so many questions with the Secret Service, and you really got to feel for President Trump, his family, and everybody in the administration. They rely on the Secret Service for the safety of them and their families. And things like this happen. It's really got to be terrifying for people under Secret Service protection, because if you can't trust them, what kind of position are they in, right? It's when I remember when the JFK movie came out with Oliver Stone, it seemed in so many ways kind of crazy, JFK with Oliver Stone. And you know what I mean? It was all over the place. It didn't really make a lot of sense, it seemed to me at the time, and seemed totally nuts. And I was never a conspiracy person until I started seeing all the things they've done to President Trump. And now we know it's all true. It's all true. This new thing that came out, it was new to me with Bobby Kennedy's assassination. With Bobby Kennedy Jr. brought it up that his dad was shot in the back. not the front. Sirhan was facing him. He was shot by his own personal bodyguard, who was a CIA guy. This is according to Bobby Kennedy Jr. I never knew that about the Bobby Kennedy assassination. Did you? And there's some other details. Sirhan had a bunch of big guys that were holding him down with his gun facing up. It wasn't even facing Bobby Kennedy and Bobby Kennedy. So, this is just time and time again. And, you would think that in this day and age that we're in now, right, with so much information with the internet, that these old permanent Washington class people wouldn't be operating this way, but they've quadrupled down on it. Now, this is a clip from MSNBC over the weekend. Maria Teresa Kumar on MSNBC talking about what Trump's up to and what the Democrats need to do to resist. Listen to this craziness.
Supreme Court announced that it's going to hear arguments on May 15th on the president's move to his questioning of birthright citizenship. You see the headline there. Supreme Court to hear arguments on whether Trump can implement plan banning birthright citizenship. Maria Teresa, what's that about?
Well, it's the othering of America. And he is meddling every single day with the Constitution, in this case, directly with the 14th Amendment. And the only way to ratify the new amendment is to get the majority of the states to agree to this. And that's never going to happen. But here's the rub. He is talking about individuals that are undocumented, but he's also floating this whole idea that he can start incarcerating U.S. citizens without due process and sending them abroad to a maximum security prison. We have to make sure that we are paying close attention to everything this administration is doing, because he's starting with undocumented immigrants as the canary in the coal mine, but is starting to actually use them as proxies to see how much the American people are going to fight back. In this instance, imagine all of a sudden, if you are someone that, you're a married woman and you go ahead and I'm thinking of the SAVE Act, right? You're a married woman, you want to go and you want to register to vote, but because you don't have your birth certificate, you're completely disenfranchised. This is all part of the exact same game that they're playing, and it's trying to eradicate not only our constitutional rights as individuals, but it's actually trying to tear down the whole system of what our democracy actually means to everybody.
Okay, so Trump's trying to tear down democracy. This thing about this is a big thing that the left have been floating over the marriage license. My wife, Kathy, she has her married name and her maiden name. And I remember about 10 years ago, maybe a little longer, she had to renew her driver's license. And she needed her marriage license, and we'd lost it. And it was not easy to get. It took a while to get. We had to get an official copy with the raised seal of it and everything. Now, they would have still given her a driver's license, but with her maiden name only. Okay, to get it with her married name, we had to get the marriage license. This is a typical thing that married women have to do. It's not about disenfranchising women. It's just what women have to go through, because women change their name in a very relaxed way, actually. I was surprised when Kathy and I got married how easy it was for her to change her name. I remember going to the bank and she says, "Oh, I got to change my name on the bank account. I just got married." They didn't want any proof. They just did it. I was really surprised how easy that it went down until she had to renew her driver's license. So if you're getting government documents, a driver's license, a voter registration card, things like this that are very important from the governments of our country, whether it's local, state, or federal, you have to prove some things. I mean, that's just the way it is. Okay, you can't just go around and be given government ID or some other ID because you say you're this person. You have to be able to verify that someone is who they say they are. And in the case of married women, oftentimes it's done through a marriage license to show that their name is this name. Here's the marriage license. And I changed my name to this because now I'm married. Here's the proof that I'm married. And by the way, in this day and age, it's not just, women who change their names. Men change their names when they get married a lot of times now, especially with some of the, gay marriages and such. I don't know how all that works, but men have to change their names sometimes when they get married too. It's a strange new world. But they're all, the left are always trying to promote this idea, and this is before Trump, that Republicans are always trying to disenfranchise and victimize someone, right? They always want to hold that up. Look what they're doing. Look what they're doing. Okay, now the Drudge Report has a story here on the Kristi Noem robbery, and I'm looking through it. There's nothing new. Still no information on where the purse was. That's the one that I find the most disturbing. Why aren't they telling us where the purse was and how the guy got it? And how did someone under Secret Service protection have a strange man in a mask? And this isn't 5 years ago, okay? How many people are wearing masks? Where did this guy go with a mask to someone who's a protectee of the Secret Service and get their very large purse? There's if you go to the Daily Mail article, there's a photograph of her with that purse. It is a big purse. You know, a guy walking around with a purse like this would most definitely stand out. And it's a very flashy, expensive purse because Kristi Noem is rich and flashy, like with the watch. I don't know how the Secret Service saw a man with a mask walk out of this restaurant with Kristi Noem's purse and didn't say, wait a minute, that's Secretary Noem's purse, and intervene and try to stop it. I'm telling you, there is something up with this. Something's up with this. It just stinks. It really does. And, you know, the immigration deportation and the whole immigration issue with Trump, since she's the Secretary of Homeland Security, she's one of the top leaders in it. And for all the people in this restaurant to have their purse stolen, for it to be her, with everything that's going on, with the deep state wanting to stop her, with the media wanting to stop her, and of course these terrorist gangs from De Agua and MS-13 wanting to stop, this is not a random robbery. It's not. Now, Kristi Noem, she seemed pretty cool about it at the Easter egg roll, and you know, but you know, if you've ever been robbed, it's pretty disturbing. I mean, it's a violation. My mother had her purse stolen twice. My mother once got into a traffic accident. Some guys hit her in an intersection. She got out of the car. The guys that hit her grabbed her purse and drove off. Can you believe it? And there was another time. This is a common thing that happens. Women leave their purses oftentimes in the front seat of the car at gas stations. My mother was pumping gas and someone came and stole her purse. You know, it happened. You know, my mother's 74 years old. She's been around a while, so it's not like she's always a victim. And these incidents were decades ago and decades apart. But you know, women are, you know, women get their purses stolen, and I know how it feels because my mother, you know, they got my driver's license, they've got my bank information, they have my checkbook, and it's scary that they have all your information. And now what I really want to know, did they get Kristi Noem's phone? Was her phone in the purse or on her person? And, you know, the media, yeah, I went through a few of these stories on the podcast, and you notice what the media do. They just plagiarize one another, right? No one has asked any questions. There haven't been any follow-ups, and they've just reprinted the original story, which came from CNN. They just copy and paste it. They reword it a little bit to make it sound a little bit like their own. But no, every story is pretty much the same, almost word for word. And none of these idiot reporters are asking any of the questions that we're asking. Did they get the phone? It didn't say they got the phone, but it didn't say they didn't. All these other questions, too, haven't been asked. Hopefully, we'll find out more. Now, if you're new to the program, make sure you follow and subscribe on whatever platform you're listening to us on. My name's Brian Craig. We'll talk to you next time.